There's a lot of discussion these days about how to stop children getting distracted by screens. But there are ways early on in life of helping your child to be able to sustain their attention on something on their own as they get older. I've been to the Child Development Lab at the University of East London, where parents and children come in to take part in psychological studies. And it seems that shared play is key. And this is where a child and a parent focus on the same toy, for example, at the same time.
Okay. What sounds do they make?
Nom, 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 nom. Oh, it's so delicious and yummy in my tummy.
So I'm Professor Sam Watson. I'm Director of the Institute for the Science of Early Years and based out in East London. And you're here in our labs today where we have a variety of different kind of tricks that we use to observe kind of naturally occurring parent-child play dynamics. Such as, how play affects young children's brains.
So we've got this lovely one-way mirror here, which is like almost floor to ceiling, with a lovely big playroom behind it. So we're watching Scarlett, who's the mother, and her daughter Violet. And so what happens? The children will come in, and then what happens?
Particularly what we're interested in is this idea of shared engagement. So this is something that obviously is changing a lot in families, and there's good research that the amount of time that we spend paying attention to the same thing at the same time as one another is going down. Probably we think because of screens are very good at sucking us into our own individual worlds, but there's a really strong evidence that just simply shared engagement, simply being interested in what each other is interested in, has a really, really good long-term effect on children. And in fact, the most effective way of improving a child's ability to pay attention on their own during later life is to spend a lot of time doing this type of shared engagement during early life.
I saw one.
What did you say? Show me.
It's a tea.
That's so shiny. Oh, I like that one, Violet.
And I've noticed there's something happening here. So Violet sort of moved away from the toys that they were playing with on the floor with the eggs and the little toys. And she saw some a kind of big shiny shape that was on a shelf. And so she went to get that. So what is happening here? I mean, she's kind of going off away from her mother a bit now to get things.
Yeah, so one of the big differences between a child's brain and an adult's brain is that our adult brains are quite stable. So once we get into a state, we kind of tend to stay in that state, whereas children's brains are naturally more unstable. So if you think of them as like an engine, they don't idle as evenly. And what we saw Scarlett do, and she's doing it very skillfully as she's watching, is she's watching these moments and she's responding to it, saying, okay, we've broken that play episode. We've stopped playing with what we're interested in. Now Violet has switched attention and she started paying attention to something else. And then what Scarlett is doing is she's extending those play episodes, by putting a word label on this object that Violet's interested in, by picking it up and demonstrating.
Oh yeah, so Violet's just picked up a shell, and she picked up the shell and put it down, and then Scarlett picked it up and is telling her about the shell, and then they're holding it to their ears to see if they can hear the sea.
Yeah, and what's going on here is that a lot of the research into concentration is it's easier to concentrate on things that we understand. We used to think of concentration very much as like a mental muscle, that I'm either good at concentrating or not because I have a strong mental muscle or not. And we now realise that concentration is much more complicated than that, and that it's easier to concentrate on something when I understand something about it. And what Scarlett is doing is she's helping to build Violet's understanding moment by moment. So she's following what Violet's interested in, and then when she's interested in something, she's helping to build understanding of what it is that she's interested by using word labels, by demonstrating uses, by kind of picking it up and kind of exploring it kind of in a multi-sensory way.
Look at this one.
Oh, can I see? Oh, yes, that's a cool shape, isn't it?
Mommy
Right.
loves these shells.
I know, we like shells, don't we?
Oh my god.
Because they're all different. So you never...
It's interesting that you're studying parents and children together, and sometimes you're even recording data in their own homes. I mean, this feels very different from, I don't know, our traditional idea of neuroscience as somebody, lying in a brain scanner and you watching what's happening in their brains.
Yeah, and I think this is a lot to do with how our understanding of how young brains learn is changing. So even when I was doing my PhD, 15 odd years ago, there was very much this idea that learning was about a one-way flow of information from the stuff that I'm learning about into my brain. But increasingly, from lots of different sources, we realise that, in fact, this really, really isn't how learning works. It's a bidirectional thing. So I'm constantly asking questions of my environment and then looking at how the information that I get back from my environment influences the next question that I ask of it. But until now, we haven't really had the tools to study them. So that's why we're trying to do a different type of neuroscience here, really. We're trying to observe these naturally occurring, free-flowing, kind of bidirectional exchanges.
And so you're rigging people up with EEG fluffy caps that can actually measure their brain activity that's going on just underneath the skull. And what are you finding there?
So we measure lots of different aspects of the interaction. So we measure the brain activity, which is kind of oscillating very fast, kind of multiple times per second. We also measure the language that's coming out, the facial cues, the eye movements, the hand movements, and also the physiology. And we see that in a lot of ways, the parents' kind of rhythms are changing during shared interaction to match the child's rhythm.
So you'll actually see their brain waves synchronise. That seems kind of extraordinary.
Yeah, definitely. So it's these two things. So one, I have a rhythm to the interaction. Yeah. So in adults, they will create a rhythm to the interaction through, turn taking, for example. I talk and you talk, and lots of different ways of turn taking through gesture, through these early non-verbal interactions. So that's one of the things that drives the synchrony. But then the other thing that drives the synchrony is I'm continuously adapting. If you think of it like a dance, I'm kind of skipping half a step to stay in sync with you, and you start charging off somewhere else and I follow you. So those are these two kind of quite distinct things that we think drive the establishment of synchrony during shared play.
And what does the evidence show us about the advantages of this shared engagement type of play? What are the benefits?
So there's really good evidence that the more time we spend in shared engagement between a parent and a child during early life, the better that child is at sustaining attention on their own during later life. So it's really, really important and really, really crucial, practically, if we want children who can concentrate on their own, what's the best way to get there? But also thinking about how society is changing and how this idea of shared engagement is under threat in lots of different ways.
So what are your top tips then for how to foster this shared engagement?
So they're all don't do things that I do at home. So be patient. Young children's brains are much, much slower than an adult's brain. You can ask them a question. It's always the thing that everybody says, but it's so important. Ask them a question, then count to 20 before you tell them the answer.
20? That's quite a long time.
I know it's such a long time, but there's really good evidence that an 18-month-old's brain works 10 times slower than an adult's brain. And I really did notice that sometimes if you wait a really, really long time, the answer does come. Don't feel awkward about pauses. So a lot of parents feel, oh no, there's nothing happening, I need to make something happen. But those moments of silence, those moments where nothing is happening is really, really crucial, because it's those self-initiated, it's the times when the child has an idea and then they reach out, that are the crucial moments. And sometimes you just have to wait for those to come. And you can really help to enrich and deepen their understanding through, how you follow their lead and kind of build and elaborate on stuff that they're interested in already.
And after watching them play together so beautifully, I popped around to the other side of the one-way mirror to say goodbye to Violet and Scarlett. Thank you very much, Violet, for letting us come and watch you play.
And thank you.
You've been having fun here.
Interesting, like usual. Say bye, Violet.
Bye.
Bye.
Scarlett, Violet and Professor Sam Wass at the University of East London. Now, Catherine, I know that when your children were young, like Scarlett, you actually took part in psychological studies yourself. You were kind of on the other side of things. You're usually doing the research. What was that like?
It was really interesting. One of them was actually part of someone's training for psychoanalytic therapy. So they were doing a lot of the same things, watching how I interacted with my son. And they said very carefully when they came in to just carry on as normal and not to do too much. But, I suddenly became super parent, I think.
Yeah, you must want to be the sort of perfect parent while you know they're watching you. Or can you forget you're being watched? Because it's usually behind a one-way mirror like this, isn't it?
You can, but I think I did. But I certainly myself, I became quite conscious of it. I think, 1 hour a week, my son got some very high-level parenting. But we also did another one, which I always love because it's had such an impact on us. And this was to do with eating vegetables. And it was a team that came round and gave him a selection of vegetables and asked him, well, basically they asked him to tick on a box which one he liked the most or hated the most. And the vegetable that he really hated was white cabbage. So they said that he had to try a little bit every day, and we'd give him a sticker if he did taste the white cabbage. Honestly, by the time they came back a month later, they kind of redid it, and he couldn't stop eating this white cabbage. And now he loves raw vegetables.
All from taking part in that study?
It really had an impact. It was amazing.
Oh, so benefits for you as well as for the researchers there then.